Welcome to ThreatTank, a podcast covering the latest threat intelligence, threat response, and insights about the security landscape around the globe. I'm your host, Tom Gorup, Vice President of Security Services here at Edgio, and joining me today is the Richard Yew, Senior Director of Product. How you doing, Richard?
Not bad. Pretty good. How are you doing?
Dude, living
Long
your
time
dream.
no see.
Indeed, it's been back to back. You and I hanging out, and it's good to be on the podcast today. So today we're covering RSA. To your point, we were last week hanging out in San Francisco at the Moscone at RSA. So we're going to jump into that. But before we jump into that, I have to do the icebreaker question. And as usual, Richard has no idea what this question is.
Here we go again.
Yeah. So here it is, man. So for a minute, imagine your life is now a video game. Imagine that for a minute. Okay. What are 2 cheat codes you would have, and what would they do?
Oh, that's easy. Like, be able to walk in like 3 exits. Well, I don't know. You're saying 2 cheat code, right?
Two
Well,
cheat.
the first one allows me to walk through the wall and walk through the ground or walk to the sky. That's one cheat code. Well, what would be the other one? Uh, well, uh, infinite resources. And so we can no longer play the video game because like you got everything farmed up already.
The reality is that that's the only cheat code you really need. There's infinite resources. You're pretty much in good shape there.
Well,
Sky's the limit.
I mean, walking to the ground. It's cool, but you know you don't need cheat codes for that because like most games nowadays, like you walk in a wall and you get stuck, or you walk in the ground and you get stuck. Anyway. So the other cheat code I'll have as a bonus is to be able to do T pose, right? So in most FPS, right, you see a character is rendered but not functional. That they have a T pose. So
Yes.
I'll love to have that.
The broken NPC character just
Yeah.
hanging
What
out.
about you?
So yeah, it's good. I agree with your infinite resources. I think that's a good cheat code to have. The second one, because life at this point is a video game. So it would be equivalent to unlocking the map, except just unlocking all knowledge, all information readily available. It's kind of like, I'm imagining the map in like Warcraft or Starcraft, like it's all grayed out. So removing the fog of war. Yeah.
So you're looking for a map hack.
That's right.
Oh, that's cool. Like we live in simulations anyway. So
Yes, we should go down that. Maybe we're going to pivot this podcast and let's talk about the simulation for a minute. No, well, actually, we are talking about RSA, so it might feel a little bit like a simulation sometimes when we were out there. So prior to last week, or even during last week, we had some big releases. Right, we had ASM, Attack Surface Management, client side protection. And during the event, we released our quarterly attack trends report. This is the second version of that, covering all of Q1. So that was pretty exciting. What were your thoughts around that? How do you think that went? And were people interested?
oh well, I mean that was a really busy RSA. I keep saying ASM, but yeah, like it. I think it's one of the best ever. It's really good. I mean, I'll definitely say. I'll quantify that. It's definitely like at least 400% better than last year. I think I'm being very conservative when we say that. It was great. You know, it was great to have the opportunity to show the new product and features for all the visitor who comes by. You know, we appreciate the time spent. We done a great deal of demo. To the point. Our head of engineering, Mark Mercado, he's like, "How is it physically possible to do this demo? 2 persons on the booth, right, with 2 SEs." So, I mean, it was great. I think one of the other highlights, obviously, we get to spend a lot of time with like industry analysts and even media people. So, got some really nice scoops about industry trends. Like whether we're on the right path or not, right? So, that was awesome.
No, it's great. I think those are perfect starting points. Like, so I agree. I mean, our booth was so busy that just having the two SEs and even ourselves wasn't enough to keep up with traffic. What were some of the things that you were hearing from, I would call them future customers, but all the people, coming by the booth? What were some common, perspectives that you were getting, or what were they excited about? I guess specifically with Edgio, or even about the. I don't want to be Edgio specific here too. Like even about what they were seeing on the floor.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Like security industry is so big, and when you release a new solutions, you think that people already know about this solutions, and then we find that there's actually we're actually surprised by like some like surprised by how much we actually take like like people's like context for granted. Like for example, their practice were like, hey, do you have stuff that inventories all of your web properties in your
Mm.
organizations? Do you have a continuous threat exposure program, in your organization's right management program? And we talk to large customers, small customers, right? A lot of these things that you think that we should be taken for granted of was actually not a familiar concept to a lot of organizations. So, which is great, right? We have a lot of topic to talk to people about. There's always good ideas to share. Like we're not always selling you stuff, but what we're talking about, there's a bit of that thought leadership's opportunity to be able to provide, provide an additional options, alternative viewpoint to the customer. So that's definitely one thing. Obviously, like the way we release ASM, right? Which basically makes us the first provider in our industries in the adjacent like edge web application API protections company to actually have an attack surface management, right? That helps you also inventories. So this is really something that people don't expect out of us, right? So and surprisingly, we have to we'll have to explain, hey, why does it make sense, and why is there great synergies, right? And it's not something that people naturally thought about, but it makes sense. It's kind of like iPhone. you know does it make sense to have a phone that does not have a button? People are used to BlackBerry with all the buttons, but then
Yeah.
you just touch screen everything. Oh, interesting. Think about that, right?
Yeah, it was funny. I was listening to something yesterday. Can't remember what it was, but yeah, this guy said, "What if I told you to have two dishwashers and you put one, you buy a little magnet and you put your clean dishes magnet on the one that's been cleaned, and your dirty dishes or washing dishwasher for the one that's being cleaned, where you put your dirty dishes on." And in that case, you always have clean dishes, and you never have to really take it out of the dishwasher or load the dishwasher. It's kind of just a constant flow. So
Yeah.
that's not a horrible idea, just to have a clean and a dirty one. But it's just introducing the world a little bit differently, right? Having you look at it a little bit differently. So our last podcast, we went in depth with attack service management. So I definitely don't want to go too deep there, but I agree with you. In the conversations that I had, a lot of it was like, this makes that asset inventory so much easier because it's consolidating it into a single platform. And it's not just the assets too, it's the underlying technology stack that's sitting on those applications, being able to do both of those at once. So uh, I'd say, congratulations on that release. That's exciting. And I know we got a bunch of free trial customers that are actively checking this out right now. And I'm excited to see even more there. And from a SOC standpoint, that's super powerful for us to have that perspective. So well done, and congrats on that
Yeah,
one.
congratulations to us all. I mean, like all of us, like you and I, we've been working on these things together. Our teams like since day one. So it's amazing, how fast we can turn that around, and really, it's really a great value add, enhancements. In fact, I'd say it's a game changer to like how we do security going forward.
Agreed. 100%. It's going to change it all. So from that, spinning off from there, stepping away from our booth and starting to just walk the floor, what did you see? What was like the common themes that you picked up from all the vendors at RSA this year?
All right. Well, in order to describe that, right, Tom, you and I, we're gonna pair up and we're gonna sing a song. Right. So I'm gonna start like, "Oh, McDonald have a farm."
AI.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So it's funny, like, but I remember we're doing this 1 minute skits, during the show, right? I was cracking a joke about how like last year, if I would get $1 every time I see zero trust in San Francisco, right, I'll be rich after that week, right? And then this year, I mean, I'll say the same thing, but this year is gonna be like this year's AI. So I mean, obviously, I'm not. Well, I'm probably being a bit facetious here, but think about this, right? It makes sense because really, with AI coming in, right, it really gives the attacker a lot of capability to like even like a low skill attacker can now generate attack scripts, can now do recons, can now do you know, pen testings,
Mm-hmm.
or an actual attack, right? So you can do a lot of things, but also from defender side, it really help us. It's really help us, like improve our security, improve the security operations, especially security operations, right? Especially every like tech industry is kind of tough nowadays. Everybody's trying to like figure out the safe cut costs. So then most security team has to figure out, what to do, like how to do more with less, because well, the amount of new CVEs that came out, they don't care how the economy is, they don't care what the interest rate is, the CV is going to keep going up. But we care as a business, right? We have to allocate resources accordingly. So how do we fix that problem? Oh, McDonald comes here.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. That's what I saw. It was a AI powered, AI driven X, right? Just kind of over and over and over again. It got to the point where it was like, yeah, I got it. You use AI. What problem are you trying to solve for me? Every conversation I had is like, okay, what are you solving? Because you're right, like AI solves some big problems, but your approach, your method of how you're leveraging it, and what specific problem you can solve for me is super powerful. We are seeing attackers use AI to iterate on their attacks, right? Because they're able to see the response code and then use AI to adjust the payload accordingly as they're traversing those attacks, or iterate on their phishing emails, right? Like I used to joke that the attackers weren't getting smarter; they were just getting better at writing English. And these days, like now they're using AI, they can write it in any language and be just as effective. So it's allowing attackers to scale their attacks, and it's also going to enable us defenders to scale our capabilities as well. So exciting, but to your point, maybe a little bit exhausting as well. Were there any other? Oh, go ahead.
One of the really, really important things that AI can help us to do, it's really the ability to put two and two together. It's like there's a whole correlation engines that you can build with that. Like, I mean, I always, and I don't come up with that data. I think credit goes to our friends at Cisco. There, they one of the VP in a podcast talk about how there's so many systems. There's a vendor sprawl and there's an alert flaw like sprawl nowadays. Right? I mean, like 3 different low level alert from say a network firewall, an IDS, and right and your WAF may just get ignored if you just treat them as an individual isolated case. But when you have a correlation engine that's powered by AI that puts two and two together, or in this case, three and three together, right? Um, and then this 3 low-level alerts might result into a high severity alert that a lot of data breach kind of gets slipped by because they don't have the teams are too busy and too siloed to actually be able to put two and two together and actually detect actual threat and vulnerability to your organizations.
Yeah, 100%. That's what excites me about AI is I believe it lowers the barrier to entry for security as well. When you're able to kind of have a guided assistant that can help drive you, not only providing guidance about what you should look at or look at a large data set and provide bullet point insights in a relatively quick manner, but also helping you guide based on internal processes. You have your documented procedures for how you manage incidents. Why wouldn't you be able to leverage AI for that? I actually remember a buddy of mine, we were out on vacation. It was probably, like 12 years ago. And we were kind of dreaming up this security bot, like a pet, like a virtual pet that you would carry around with you from business to business as a security analyst. And then each of those businesses would have some sort of translator, if you will. So they could use Splunk, or they could use ArcSight, or whatever SIM. They could use Palo Alto firewalls or F5, and they could use all this different technology. And you as a security analyst, it wouldn't matter, because your virtual assistant would act as that intermediary, and it would learn about you, what you like to look at, what kind of questions you typically ask, what news you read, and that sort of thing. It's a thing now, right? You can start building these sort of capabilities, and that's pretty exciting to me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's really it's really new frontiers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like in this sense, even though we always joke about AI, now everybody loves AI, but I really think that I really think that this is going to be something that everybody can utilize, and I mean the market is not wrong, right? To know how to grasp onto that, and really take the best advantage of what AI can offer.
Yeah, and I've made a joke actually while we're at RSA. It's like, yeah, we use AI as well, but we also, and make it a slight pivot into the industry analysts. I remember talking with one of the analysts. You might recall this. Like, he was actually a little excited that we didn't lead the conversation with AI,
Right.
Which I thought was pretty interesting. So to that end, we spoke with a bunch of analysts. What'd you hear from those guys?
Well, I think there are a couple of like concept that's nowadays like getting picked up in the market. Like obviously there's a lot of validations from analysts with what we've been doing and where we're going, and one of those things that has been pretty hot in the market is the idea that um, like organizations are starting to find a need for what they call a CTEM, or continuous threat exposure management, right? CTEM. Um, Basically, part of that is to be able to change from being reactive to being proactive. In fact, I mean, like there's a new word we learned is that no, like nowadays it's not enough to be proactive. You got to be preemptive. The attack, right? You got to anticipate the attack and be able to mitigate that before it even happens, right? And part of that goes back to like having the ability to continuously, make sure that you find and deal with any exposure. Security is not a one-time thing, right? Security is a continuous thing. There's no start date and end date of a project called security, right? So in this case, I think it's Gartner's, right? Gartner's has a stats, and don't. I'm just going to ballpark it, right? Is that by 2026, organizations that like utilize this that adopts a continuous threat exposure management program has anywhere between 2 or 3 times less likely to suffer a data breach. Well, that's really we're talking about. We're not talking about 20 or 30%. We're talking about 2 or 3 times. That's a step change. That's the kind of exponential solutions that we need, right, to deal with exponential problems, right? So you gotta have adopt a new paradigms. So this is really one great takeaway, and really aligns with what we're doing with our new products, like like client side protections, which inventory all of your third party like scripts and like calls on your website, or as well as ASM, right, to be able to constantly monitor and notify customers of exposure, right? So we're going to be, obviously it's a very good directions, um, uh, indications of where our company is going to when it comes to the future of our security solutions.
Yeah, it's huge. Continuous threat exposure management. When we look at years prior, something we saw like a pivot in the industry that phishing, the human was the weakest link. But just a couple weeks ago, Mandiant came out and they said they saw a 50% increase in attacks, in 0-day attacks. And the number one threat became vulnerabilities. That's how attackers are breaking into companies now. So we've seen this kind of parallel shift go from, early days security, where it was, hacking the Gibson. And then that was kind of over and they started targeting the human, right? Because people got a little bit better at vulnerability management, and we had firewalls, all these, protective or preventative layers that sit in front. And now that's shifting back into leveraging 0 days. And it makes sense too when we see, AI starting to be more prominent and being able to, again, iterate faster, maybe looking at it from a fuzzing standpoint, but using an intelligent fuzzing with AI. So there's a need for this continuous threat exposure management, this awareness and process of continuing to reach and get better at it. Another one I think we heard too is the automated moving target defense. What's that? Because that sounded pretty interesting as well.
Well, I'll just say it's still a learning process for me. So, but I think the idea is, again, it goes back to the idea of being preemptive.
Mm.
More than proactive, right? Like security, we're living in the OODA loop, right? Observe, orient, decide, act, right? We're trying to constantly get ahead of our attacker, and these things. One of our analyst friends, right? We call them as AMTD. This honestly, like, this is the first time I heard about that, during a conference. So learn something there, and it's something we should definitely take a look into. It's probably on the far left side of the hype cycles right now, but I think there's a potential for this to become a thing. I think the idea is to be able to create like dispersion, like countermeasures, to mislead the attackers, so to minimize the probability of. So it's not just about mitigating the attack to your system when the attack happens, but it's to mislead the attacker so that they hit something else that's not the intended target in the first place, right? So it sounds like an interesting space that everybody should be looking into.
What it reminded me of is like a zigzag. Like you're getting shot at and you want to zigzag. You just want to be able to move faster than they're able to keep a target, keep a lock on you. I think it's an interesting concept for sure to keep an eye on, especially as we start thinking about more secure by design. I really do think that that's a prerequisite of a solution like this. You have to think about how can I make my solution agile and make it able to move and maneuver that way. Interesting concepts, and definitely keeping an eye on that.
Yeah. Hey, you want to talk about your report? I heard we did a thing.
Yeah, the quarterly attack. I appreciate that. Yeah, we spent a lot of time on that. It was a lot of work the team put into that. But yeah, our quarterly attack trends report. There's some pretty cool stuff. And I was going to mention earlier too, like one of the many ways that we're leveraging AI was kind of represented in that report. Actually, there's a couple, right? Bot management, and how we do a lot of API discovery work. A lot of that's leveraging machine learning and AI. And then we also had the news analysis. Our AI poured through about over 40,000 news articles. And what I thought was pretty interesting that we pulled from that was the top 5 weaknesses that resulted in CVEs. So less about the CVE themselves, but more about, hey, what was the weakness that caused this product to end up in the news and talked about? And what were the top 5 that landed you in the news? And that's in the report. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, it was good stuff. And saw some good response too. We had one printed out there at the booth, and watching people thumb through it and ask questions and get pretty excited about it was pretty fun.
Yeah, well, when you get to a point where somebody say, can I just bring a copy home? I'm like, I'm sorry, this is a display copy. You want to buy that? Sorry, but it's not. You don't have to buy that. I don't want to mislead the audience.
We were selling at the RSA bookstore upstairs. Yeah.
Yeah, like 25 cents per copy. But it's worth more than $250. Yeah, but I like congrats on the report. I think this is amazing. I think this is our best and most comprehensive report thus far. Like I actually learned something new. I learned about Orb Network from reports. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, Orb Networks, interesting concept, interesting shift in tactics as well. It makes things a lot more complicated. What do we have? Something, I think it was 37% of attacks were sourced from residential networks, so home networks in essence, home ISPs, and it's really breaking. Like we knew geofencing was dead, but this kind of doubles down on that problem when over a third of your attacks are coming from effectively people's homes. How do you manage to that? So yeah, paradigm shift and some pretty good data in that report, and more to come. I mean, I'm excited to start adding in perspectives and unique views from an ASM standpoint as we start gathering some more intelligence there and sharing it with the world. I mean, that's the objective of this report, right? Is like, how do we make the internet safer? It's a team sport. We all need to be working together, and any insights that we can glean from the 10.5 billion blocks that quarter, or the 4% of internet that we cover, like we should be sharing that intelligence to make everybody safer. So I appreciate that, and it's exciting.
It's like I love threat intels that we'll be able to show. It's not just utilizing in our products. What we're saying, we're in the information age. Like information's data is a new oil, and it's cliche and everything, but I mean it's true though. Like I think it really part of that is to really help us, share those knowledge to our customers, to everybody.
100%. And the other end of that data is power in that sense. We're seeing a lot of nation states that are using 0 days as a commodity, like it's a resource that they see their country producing, and they don't want other countries to take advantage of that. And that's where this world of increased 0 days that we've been seeing, it's a result of, right? Is they're storing those, they're collecting those, and at the end of the day, the world we're in, it's a commodity and it is important. So we need to share the other side of it, right? The defensive side, to make everybody safer. Other than that, any other insights? Any closing thoughts about your time at RSA and everything that happened?
I'm supposed to plug all the new products. So but we spend so much time in ASM. I think, well, that's the other thing that we kind of notice, and we get a lot of questions because like that was the other thing that's going on in our industry. Well, especially more in the GRC like side of things, right? People are making a killing about. I guess about this is obviously the new PCI DSS 4.0.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we're in grace period right now. This thing just announced, and I think a lot of the new requirements from PCI, specifically around say 642 and 643, they are going to be enforced starting March 2025. If I don't get my dates wrong here, and we're starting to see a lot of like plays on marketing, how we're going to help customers, make sure that they can fulfill all of PCI DSS 4.0 compliance. We're already in mid-May. We're right in the middle of second quarter. Time flies so quickly. Very soon we're going to be going to like holiday lockdown, whatever. So what do you need to do to get yourself compliant with PCI? As quickly as possible. Obviously, we already help our customers cover a lot of the PCI requirements. Historically, but this year we released our first client-side protections solutions, and this is going to be the core of fulfilling the new requirements, specifically around DSS 4.0. I think that it's called requirements 6.4.3. It's the need to be able to constantly inventory your scripts, especially on a payment page, because the whole reason behind the needs for doing this is because a lot of the websites are being infected by credit card schemers. The most famous one, Mage Card, right? So obviously the PCI councils have determined that it's critical for organizations, which I agree, right? E-commerce shop to protect the end user against these types of digital electronic credit card schemers, right? So with the introduction of client-side protections from Edgio, we are able to help our customers cover this type of use case, which ultimately really help customers stay compliant. Well, I mean, it's more like on the surface, stay compliant with PCI compliance, right? 4.0, but ultimately make sure that the end customers, the end user, are protected, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, making sure that they can make transactions in a secure way. Explain to me a little bit, how does client side protection work? What is it doing? What does it look like under the covers?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like it just popped the hood open, right? I think at a high level, what we do is that we send some directive to the browser to say, hey, for this particular domain, for this particular website, tell me everything that's going through the websites, right? So we've instructed the client. We have technology with the client to actually gather those data, so we're able to see every single request, connections that's going through a website. And you'd be surprised that every time you load a web page, like say a car shop or a clothing store, right? There are actually hundreds of sub resources: CSS, JavaScript, web font, images, you name it, right? That's happening, right? So and a lot of them are coming from third party. There's a stat that a huge amount of the resources from a typical website nowadays are loaded from a third party, right? So you're susceptible to this kind of supply chain attack. So what the client side protection do is to be able to gather an inventory those third party call or first party, right? I mean, like all of them that you need to have visibility on. And then we give customers the visibility on our dashboard, and then we also give them the options to say, hey, this weird API call doesn't look right. Why is this making a call to a suspicious third party? Is this collecting credit card information or user PII and try to phone home to a remote collectors for that? So we give customers the ability to block those on a browser site, so that the client, in this case, client means browser, right, or any user agents, right? We can instruct them to stop making connections, in a sense, effectively blocking any vulnerable request to prevent data breach.
Love it. Yeah, it ties right into, I always say security postures, visibility, exposures, and threats. This gives us visibility into the end users, what's happening in their client, right? Because that's often a gap from a protection standpoint. It's like, what's happening way over there on the user's machine? Well, this is opening up, shining a light, giving us visibility into that world, and actually being able to stop it too, like effectively whitelisting, right? Like, here's what it can do and can't
Right.
do.
Yeah,
Well,
we really provide very granular, sophisticated, because we recognize that we work with all types of customers, large and small. Certain customers they require a lot of very granular control of what a script can and cannot do. So with our client side protection, we really provide an extremely powerful configuration engines for you to drill deeper into how you want to control your scripts. Or, I mean, if you're one of those organizations which I just want to be compliant, I just don't want bad stuff to happen. Yeah, there's a basic best practice, configurations. And of course, I mean, we have our SOC team and our security, like enterprise security teams, here to really help our customers make sure that they make the best use of these protections, to make sure that they always stay on top of whatever compliance requirements that our customers need.
yeah, 100%. That's the challenge, right? That's why I love that, really explaining not only the PCI, the compliance requirement that comes with the client side protection, but also like how it works and why it's important to use in the first place. And oftentimes that's, it's difficult to keep up with, especially if your focus isn't security. So being able to lean on your security provider, your security team, to provide those insights and help you make a good decision. And not only that, help you configure it, get it deployed, and manage it for you. I mean, that's powerful. That's pretty powerful. You've been a busy man, Richard.
No, like it's been great. Going back to RSA, like this has been one of the most productive years in RSA, and everything we do leading up to RSA to like set us in the position to really showcase some of the really neat improvements we're trying to do with market. I'm glad that we're able to like the response to like those new hopefully innovations, right? Resonates, right? We were able to talk to a lot of great people, um, customers, analysts, competitor, colleagues in the industries. Like it's really such a great time. Like to really meet up every year and see what's been going through. The industries. A lot of companies that we talk to aren't here anymore. I think there's a lot of new company popping up right every year. This whole industry is going through a lot of change, and it's going to go through a lot of change in the future.
Yes. Yeah. There's been a lot of consolidation, a lot of partnerships, some losses along the way, but overall, a lot of moving and shaking in the security industry. And it hasn't stopped for the last decade. I don't see it stopping anytime soon, especially now AI is coming into the picture. Not seeing old McDonald over and over again, but it is a game changer. It's pretty revolutionary, from that standpoint.
Well, the good old McDonald, he's going to live for a very, very long time.
Indeed. Well, Richard, I love having you on. This is a great conversation, but we're at that time. So once again, everyone, thanks for joining us on ThreatTank. To stay up to date with latest threats and intelligence from Edgio, subscribe online to edge.io. You can go check us out over there. Check out the quarterly attack trends that's over on our website. Check out and sign up for our free trial of the ASM. Come take a look at it. Put your hands on it. Test drive it. I think that's the best way to really find out if something's going to work for you. But until next time, talk to you guys later.
All right. See you guys.